Welcome, I am Absintian, and this is Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam follows a young boy named Jody who has a definite obsession with his uncle, whose name is Sam, who went off to war. Now, his uncle's body has not been found as of this film, but later on is found and is brought back for burial. So, Jody has this unnatural obsession, though, with war and such in general, so he's glorifying it. He reads comic books almost to the point of treating soldiers like they're superheroes, in a way. Though the town that he lives in has a totally different view of his Uncle Sam, and he learns this throughout the storyline as in kind of an offhand way, but then a more direct way in the fact that on Independence Day, which is July 4th, his uncle rises from his coffin and wreaks havoc on the small town during their Independence Day festival after a bunch of teenagers desecrate an American flag on top of his soon-to-be grave. Now, that sounds like a silly premise. Absolutely awesome. And most B-movies usually do have silly premises, and it all depends on whether or not they pull that off properly. So this film sadly did not hit that mark when it comes to B-movie silliness. It's like they had the setup for it. It's a very strange premise of a person named Uncle Sam comes back, dresses as Uncle Sam to murder people. But all the characters, even though they are satirical, where we have like a businessman that is talking about tax evasion but then dresses as Abraham Lincoln, which historically was very honest and is a pretty powerful figure in American history. And so it's that type of satire, but the way it's delivered is just so flat that it's not funny. And so that's what was throughout the whole thing, is that they wanted to be funny or have some sort of comedic air about it, and it just kind of felt like it was normal, I guess, or just kind of fell flat and didn't really seem like it is funny, even though it should have. And that's kind of the thing with this. Like, one of the characters was a military colonel who goes around saying, like, I'm sorry your person that went off to war died. We're going to set up funeral preparations. He's on the phone call talking about how he is 7 and 50 on grieving widows, having sex with them. And it's like, the conversation was so flat, I didn't even, like, register that, okay, this is supposed to be funny. So that's kind of what the whole movie kind of felt like, is that it was trying, but it didn't try hard enough to raise it above just, we're satirizing this, but it's not getting to the point where it's funny that we're satirizing this. I think that's what is the primary problem with this. Then, movies like these, they should have decent death sequences, especially since the story's not amazing, but we make up for it in how over-the-top and strange we can get the death sequences. And first half, not very good, just very simple, okay, someone's buried alive, and then someone's hung. While the camera work with that worked well, I'll have to talk about that later, it was just so simple that it was not, it didn't work well. But at the very least, toward the end, they worked some better death sequences out. But even then, the death sequences had no tension to them. There was no build-up. There was an attempted build-up, but there was no tension that they were successful in presenting to you. Now, they did have some good points. Like, some of the stunts were actually very well done. They were done full camera, and one character rolling down a hill head over heels only to land and then get back up. Of course, this was behind something, so the actor could have been back there. But just the way the stuntman had to roll to be able to do that, it looked like a pretty intensive stunt, as well as another scene later on where someone has to be very close to an explosion and knocked backwards. And so the fact that they actually had them in full camera view, as well as a lot of other sequences that involved fire and explosions in very close proximity, they did a very wonderful job with those stunts, and I'm glad they did that. They could have just cut away or made it very simple and did a quick little pop and not have the actors even anywhere near it. But nope, they decided to go full bore and have them right there and have a stuntman handle that. And so, gotta say that was great. While most of the camera work, though, was very basic, like, okay, this person's talking, look at them, this person's talking now, look at them, set the scene, usual basic stuff. They had a pretty good camera angle during the hanging sequence for one of the teens, and it moved from him being slowly lifted up, and then it had an overhead view, looking down at kind of an angle to show him rising up, and it was still a solid shot. Like, they didn't cut too much during this, so I like it when they do something like that. And it showed the whole process of him struggling and then finally going limp and hanging there for a bit while Uncle Sam is down below looking up at him. And it was a very well done shot. So definitely had some small pieces of good bits in there, but as I said, like, a lot of the bad stuff just really overshadowed a lot of that work. But in the end, there was a few good stuff within there. So in the end, it's not a recommendation. The film just kind of is so flat, and everything is just kind of, well, dull throughout it. It was at least interesting to watch once it started picking up toward the end, but it's not any amazing B-movie slasher. There's definitely some other ones out there that are much better. So while they had some good points, it's like they kind of missed the mark, especially on the satire. They could have done very strong on the satire and brought that up even more and actually made it something that would be either funny or just so satirical that it would have been, like, surprising to the people watching it. And I think that at least would have made the movie a bit better on that. So in the meantime, I would say that this one is good to watch if you're just on your own and just want to watch something very cheesy and very kind of has some bad points and something maybe you could commentate over, who knows. Like, that could be a fun thing with this one, I would think, because it's just bad enough, but it's not, like, so bad that it is impossible to even make fun of. This one had its potential, but it just didn't reach it. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.